So before we start this episode today, first off, we want to extend our deepest condolences to the family of Justin Owen, who lost his life in an accident at Lawrenceburg Speedway. We certainly will be praying for his family and friends and fans, and he will certainly be missed at the track.
Welcome aboard to another edition of the Dropping the Hammer Racing Hour. I am Alex Gray along with Michael Klein, and we'll get to our guest here just shortly. But first, I also wanted to bring up, since the last podcast, Michael is now settling into his new home in Indianapolis. And how's it going for you up there?
It's going all right. Started a new job Monday at Whiteland Raceway Park, and so far it's going really well. Have had some moving difficulties, especially with the Wi-Fi. Don't buy AT&T. Just throwing that out for anyone here. Do not buy AT&T. Yeah, other than that, it's been pretty good. I'm enjoying the new place, getting settled in. Actually, just got back from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Got off work a little bit early today, so figured I would just stop by and check it out. Because why not? So yeah. So far, really enjoying my time up here.
That's good. Certainly glad to hear that. I got to take the trip up there last weekend, and pretty nice place you got there. So definitely, yeah. I definitely know I'll be taking more trips to Indy here in the near future. So definitely looking forward to that.
Lots of racing coming up.
That is true. May's coming up, month of May. A lot of action going on in Indianapolis. Definitely got to be there. So, let's get into our guest now. He's a really good designer and just a kind of an up-and-coming guy, I would say. I want to introduce a good friend of mine. This is Nick from DTH Racing Designs. Does a lot of graphic designing stuff and other things as well. First of all, Nick, thank you so much for taking the time from your busy schedule for joining us on the podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
First of all, thank you, too, for inviting me. I know I've done a little bit of work for both of you guys, but hello, I'm Nick from DTH Racing Designs. My last name is on a need-to-know basis, so there's that. Talking a little bit about my own work, I've done a lot of the branding work for Alex's content. I was the one who did pretty much all the logos, brand design, and those things for the Gray Speed brand. I've been doing most of his thumbnails for a couple of years or so now, and I was also the person behind the Divided Ending and Racing Infinity brands. I've also done the thumbnails for Sunday Night Lights, even though I was not the creator of that logo. And I've also done some work with Michael through a couple of his hero cards. We got one that we did for one of his sponsors last year, and we have another one that's basically in the pipeline for when we need it to have a new one in. And outside of that, I also do a lot of creative work for NASCAR Racing 2003 season content, or at least do that for my models, where I'm basically creating a bit of a fictional racing universe that celebrates the love of motorsports in a whole new way, unlike anything I've seen before, in a whole new world where it's not NASCAR and IndyCar and F1. It's a whole new series with new backgrounds, new drivers, even some new tracks, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And also, he is the creator of the Dropping the Hammer Racing Hour logo and graphics as well.
Thank you for mentioning that as well.
Yeah.
I did that, and even I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously... Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, if you look at your screen right now, I made that.
That's right. It's beautiful. It's great work. I absolutely love the look, love the logos, and really appreciate you for helping me out throughout the rebrand of this channel late last year and everything else. And just I think your designs have made things look a lot more cleaner and better on my channel for sure. So I'm really thankful for that. And obviously, it's got to be really fun to be able to create.
Absolutely. I know, Alex, you have a lot of experience with that through your own NR 2003 storytelling content, which is part of how we connected so well to begin with because of our creative senses. And even though I should mention my involvement in that as well behind the scenes, I've done a lot of paint schemes for all of Alex's series, which you can find credited in the descriptions and all that kind of thing. So,
Mhm.
yeah, Alex and I are a great pair when it comes to building these creative endeavors, even if we have our own separate styles. And I, quite frankly, just love working with him and love working with anyone who likes to go outside the box of what graphic design normally is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to be able to create and tell a story. And, while we're on that topic, that's why I wanted to create something like Sunday Night Lights, which, of course, the inspiration of doing that came from a friend of ours named Griff Dog, who obviously made One More Spark and What If Dale Hart Was Still Alive, and just an absolute huge inspiration. If you haven't seen it, it's from 2016, 2017, but it is so good. It's awesome. I would highly recommend it. And that's what's given the influence to do this. And just for the record, Sunday Night Lights is being worked on. 93 and 94 are done. Started 95 already. As a matter of fact, iRock's done for 95. So I just got to rate the cars. And I'm not going to give anything away, but some pretty wild stuff happens. And you're gonna love what you see. You're gonna love what you see. But yeah.
If we're on that note, I might as well throw out my own teaser that one of the cars I did for 1994 might be my best one I've done for Sunday Night Lights so far. Alex knows what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. You made some damn good cars. I can guarantee you that. So yeah, I mean, you look at the creative aspect of things, and it's just like I said, it's being able to just have fun with it. And I think it gives you more of an open mind on things, and just it lets your imaginations just run wild. Like, oh hey, what if this happened? What if that happened? What if we did this? What if this looked like this? And that's kind of what even a Divided Ending has done. And he's done a lot of great cars, and that will be continued down the road as well. I just definitely want to get Sunday Night Lights kicking. I'm almost tempted, by the way. I don't think I ever talked about it, but I might as well. There was an original Sunday Night Lights that you remember from like 2018 that I thought at first, like, I think I actually had videos dug deep somewhere, kind of like, how Linkin Park had lost in the archives for 20 years. But, if you want me to talk about it, I can. If not, I can just edit it out later.
You decide. You decide. Are you talking about the one that has the trailer that I'm pretty sure is still up there, or are you talking about an even earlier idea that I don't fully remember?
The trailer, yeah. Yeah, because I wanted to do that dating back to 2018, but after a while I scrapped it just because I was like, I don't know if this is necessarily a great idea. And I just thought there could be a better idea to do this. The better
idea we got.
Yes, absolutely. The original idea was that it was going to start in 2001, and it was going to be darker. Basically, first of all, oh boy. So, basically, like, and it's probably a poor taste because of what happened in 2001, but, like, what if, a terrorist attack occurred at a race, and I had a driver massively injured and became an owner. I had a driver killed off, and I was like, I don't know. Like, the season got altered and stuff like that, and it was just, yeah. This is the one we have now is the better version. I can tell you guys that right now. And for the record, the fact that, I got back into it in summer of 19. I started talking about it, and then started doing everything in early 2020. And of course, a lot of it got done right off the bat with the prologue, thanks to us being cooped up in our homes because of a certain thing that happened. But yeah,
certain thing that shall not be named.
Yes, the oh no virus. We'll call it the oh no virus. And 81, 86, and after this video, we'll be through 16 seasons or something like that, which is unbelievable. Yeah, there's been setbacks and stuff, but I'm not giving up on it because, again, I can't give anything away because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a lot of big plans coming. There's a lot of. We have a lot of plans. I can say that right now. Like
a lot of big things happening that we planned, and a lot of big things that have happened that we didn't plan at all.
Yeah, because and that's the beauty of it, because like being able to do the races and go, okay, so this happened, so what does that mean for this guy or this driver or this team? So it's been fun. Honestly, it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, just a little fun discussion there. Now the other thing wanted to have you talk about was a fundraiser that's going on, right?
Yes. So another thing that I have going on currently that's going until the end of this month, so 11 more days now. I'm working with Landon Rock of Cap'n Designs, if you know him, and we're doing a collaborative fundraiser called Neon for Autism. For those of you who don't know, I am autistic myself, and I originally kind of had my brand built around this idea of being built autistic to change the narrative by trying to be someone who is much more prominent with autism, since there aren't that many just because of the nature of the disorder. But I've tried to turn that into a big piece of my own brand. And Landon Rock reached out to me after doing his own fundraiser last year, and we wanted to collaborate a bit this year. So I currently have a few limited time merchandise items on my merch store, which you can find in my Instagram and Twitter descriptions. And I have a couple limited time items, but all items are being fundraised for. And I'm fundraising for the Doug Flutie Foundation, which is an organization that is trying to help people trying to help families of children with autism set their children up for success. And if it rings a bell at all, it's because they are a partner of Armani Williams, the openly autistic race car driver, who was one of the first professional racers I ever interacted with online because of this. So it's great to bring those things full circle with this fundraiser.
Wow, that's really cool, man. Definitely gonna have to check that out and encourage all of our listeners to head over and check that out as well.
Yeah, I have a few limited time designs that are only going until the fundraiser ends on the 1st. And besides for that, I'd consider myself pretty good with my merchandising, because what I have I consider especially unique, because I haven't seen anything like this in the racing content sphere, is I also have basically fictional merchandise for some of the fictional drivers in my universe that I've created. So I've just had a lot of fun putting those kinds of things together. And if those are something you're interested in picking up yourself, those are eligible for the fundraiser until the end of the month as well.
Yeah, that's amazing, honestly. And I think it's cool even, that you've made merch off of the fictional drivers in the fictional universe and stuff like that. We will leave, for those of you on YouTube, we will leave links in the description down below. Be sure to check those out. I think it's great that you're doing this. And obviously, yeah, Armani Williams, a great guy. And always enjoy seeing him out there racing as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You also brought up merch, and I will tease this a little bit too. But we have been working on Gray Speed merch. I can say that now. I can't tell you when we'll have stuff out, but we've been working on it. Yep, it's a work in progress, but when that comes out, I'll definitely let you folks know about that. So, which I never thought I would ever do. So I appreciate you for helping take my channel to the next level after all these years.
Man, we all got new merch coming out.
Yeah.
Wow.
On the rise.
Hell yeah.
Exactly.
Here comes the money.
Here comes the money. Oh, wait, I don't want to get copywritten. Dang it. Okay, anyway. Shane McMahon. Look it up. Shane McMahon.
Wait, is this copyrighted? It's copyrighted.
Ah! I'm tempted to put a meme now just saying that little thing that's like, this video's been blocked.
I'm very familiar. I may not be a video creator, but I'm very familiar with copyright as well, as someone who has needed to be careful with avoiding referencing anything for the sponsors of cars in the merchandise I make.
Right.
It's very, I remember one of the drivers that I have merchandise for on my store. He drives a Buffalo Wild Wings car in this universe, which, by the way, shout out to Ryan Daly for that awesome paint scheme for the 13 car on
Yeah.
Xfinity this weekend, which I even tweeted about it, and I tweeted at him, I'm kicking myself that I didn't think about actually using the wing when I made that Buffalo Wild Wings car. But anyway, getting back to the topic, I remember that was a design where you could see the Buffalo across. It wasn't across the number, but it was next to the number, especially. So I had to edit it a little bit with how I made the merchandise, since that collection was basically based off of like a sheet metal on a piece of sheet metal on the shirt, and I had to make adjustments to that in order to not have the Buffalo be there and have it be a completely generic design with those colors. So I'm very familiar with the copyright sphere as well, even if I don't do videos outside a few trailers.
Oh yeah, I always love getting the little copyright claim, like, you use copyright music, so, well, you're fine, but your video is going to be, not monetized, so whatever. I'm like, fine. So, it is what it is. But, yeah, you mentioned the Buffalo Wild Wings car, which is awesome. Another car I want to bring up that's racing at Talladega this weekend is Ryan Ellis's car, the Raising Cane's car. And oh my god, I am hype. It's a beautiful paint scheme, and Michael and I know Raising Cane's.
Canes for life, baby.
Yes. We love Cane's. We love Raising Cane's.
I love Canes as well, even though there aren't that many in my area of North Carolina, unfortunately.
Yeah, we were talking about that before we started the podcast. We made a joke saying, like, we got into a rant about fast food restaurants and where they're located and stuff like that. Like, we should just drop the racing and start talking about fast food. It's like, I was tempted to do B-dubs tonight because they do the buy one, get one boneless wing special on Thursdays, but I was like, I'll skip it this week.
Yeah, I did Wingstop.
Nothing wrong with that. Wingstop's also pretty good. You can't go wrong with wings. You just can't. I feel like wings can bring people together in a sense, whether you're watching a sporting event or a race or whatever. Wings are good,
I agree.
So yeah, I mean, overall though, I'm really looking forward to that. We got Talladega coming up this weekend and all that. Elaborate more on your fictional universe. Tell us a little bit more about it, and the concept behind it, and how long and what the process was like putting everything together.
So I'll start off with this. My main project that I have is called the North American Professional Auto Racing Leagues, which is this universe's equivalent to NASCAR. It originally started as a bit of an idea all the way back from when I was about 14, when I was first learning about really like amateur graphic design and NR 2003 templates and those kinds of things. And I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this. I basically just wanted to do a creative thing. I did something where I got other people involved and did a forum, and I never released those cars because that was all the way back when I started and they weren't good. But it was around the fall of 2020 when I wanted to create a bit more of an actual project out of it. And I created the Naparol D1 series over the first part of 2021. And that was a completely fictional situation, or completely fictional series that I made that I made with the ICR mod for NR 2003, which is an amazing mod with all sorts of opportunities. Not to get too deep on that, but thank you, Armory Digital, for putting that together so I could really let creativity shine. And it was a 35 car set that I did with a completely fictional schedule, some lore behind it that I created. Started in 1950, like for example, it started in 1955, and it was in a time where even though racing was born out of the Southeast, it went nationwide quicker because of bigger investors. So it ended up spreading across North America, with Canada and Mexico getting involved much earlier than they have in real life for those kinds of situations. And it spiraled from that, and I ended up creating more series from that with the Division 2 series and the Tesla E-Stock series, which was an electric series, as well as a truck series that was completely more creativity driven. I'm talking quarter panel numbers on trucks. So I went really crazy with that one to experiment. And then after that, when I was done with those 4 series and the national series were done, by the way, this was set in 2022 for those of you who are interested in that, I ended up moving on to create an open wheel series, which I called the International Grand Prix Alliance, which is basically a series where it's Formula One meets FIFA in a way, where it's a bunch of international series that are across continents with North America, South America, Europe, and then the rest of the world with I called it the basically an Eastern series for Africa, Asia, and Australia. And I basically put that together. There was and there's an international championship that's a mini series that's held every 2 years that takes the best from each of those series for a true world champion, basically trying to create something unique out of that. And then the last new series that I did, I called the World Tour Racing Championship, which is built with the current Next Gen Cup mod, but with the addition of the wings, which is awesome because I wanted to make it look a little bit different. And that's basically the equivalent to IMSA and touring car kind of offerings because it's a wide international series that is going across the globe. It has multiple classes, a bunch of different manufacturers in it with different types of cars. And that was just something that I thought was awesome. It took me a bit back to my roots since the paint schemes were designed to be like the NASCAR Cup cars of today, but I wanted to put a bit of a twist on it like I have with not only just using the wing, but there's a few other design quirks you can find, like how there's no roof number, those kinds of things, basically just creating something completely new out of the current NASCAR Next Gen Cup cars. And then my most recent project, which just released a few weeks ago after I got back from another trip, which is a very chaotic week, is the Naparol Top 50 Drivers Collection, which goes back to the original North American Professional Auto Racing League idea. And it's a series that is, of course, inspired by NASCAR's 50 Greatest Drivers, even though this wasn't for an anniversary, where I fleshed out the lore of the entire almost 70-year history of this fictional racing league, where I had every champion, a bunch of winners of what's called the Southeastern 400, their biggest event in this universe. And I created a new set out of it that's all on the current ICR cars with paint schemes that are designed to be reflective of that time, that walks you through the entire history. And on top of that, that was also a unique experience because I was able to get a video trailer together using some experiences I learned from a college class to create an actual trailer, which has the appearances of Alex in it, as well as Rose Gem, another friend of ours. So thank you to both of you for appearing in that again. And the other big addition I have with that's really unique was I also did basically a booklet that I included with the car set, which is something that I've never done anything like before, which has additional lore information and has new renders of the cars, more of their background, which I had already typed on Stunod on my forum and showroom for that. So I've kind of went on a bit of a ramble, but that's kind of just a summary of my creative projects and everything that went into it. And it's been a very chaotic over 2 years. I'm still kind of deciding on where to go next with it. I do have one small idea that I'm not really going to talk about for kind of like a mini project that deals with one thing that I've made canon to this universe that I haven't done cars for yet, and it would be a smaller set. Before I decide that, and as I get into the end of the college year, I'm probably just going to do a few one-offs and unique paint schemes to experiment, maybe some logos and that kind of thing. But I'm excited for what I've got coming up next with this, and it's been a long time coming since I've been building this up for over 2 years now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I don't think there's many projects like that out there, and I think it's very unique and very creative, and I strongly encourage you guys to check that out. I'll try and find a link for some of that and put it in the description as well. And
yeah, you can link to my Stunod Racing showroom, which has over 15 pages of posts in it, I believe, which that'll give you summaries of every single driver, and in the cases of the open wheel series team that I've had for this project so far, just paging through there. And that'll also be an easy link to download if you're into NR 2003 content for you to mess with yourself. Everything also everything except for the top 50 drivers, since that's kind of a collection and not a real series. They also come with things like suggested points systems and the canonical schedule that I came up with for it, those kinds of things. which are made up of a mix of both real tracks, which would have different histories in this timeline, and all new tracks that are fictional ones that NR 2003 creators have made that I put in my universe.
Yeah, I think that's also what makes NR 2003 such a great game, even 20 years later, is just being able to do stuff like that, like your fictional universe, like my alternate timelines, like, and let me say, the ICR mod, Armory Digital, masterpiece. I mean, I've never seen such a well done, in depth mod, especially with the templates. I mean, I remember when I first opened the templates when it first came out, I went, oh my god, this is crazy. Look how much detail, look how many different things you can do that you can't do as easily or you can't do with the other cars. Like, you can change all sorts of decals, you can change the tire brand, the fuel brand, stuff like that. It was just really, really cool to see that when it first came out.
Absolutely, I agree with that. but yeah, that's a quick summary of my whole project. I know I've had a lot with that. If Alex wants, he can throw up some screenshots to look at during this segment, because I have plenty of those. He could get for my social medias, and I could send him more. So
yeah, I could certainly do that.
So yeah, be sure to check it out. And even if you're not interested in NR 2003, I'm sure you'll love what I've created in terms of both just looking at cool paint schemes and just the big lore and storytelling that I've created through this whole process over the last 2+ years. Because as I mentioned in the opening, it's really just a celebration of racing as a whole.
Right.
I don't want to I'm not trying to make a specific point on my opinion of a series as I do these. I'm mostly just saying, wouldn't it be cool if something like this happened? But instead of just doing it as one-offs, I'm creating a whole universe out of it, with relationships between drivers and rivalries, and the whole, as I mentioned in the case of the North American series, I now have a whole history with a full list of champions from 1955 to present. So
yeah,
I'll also give a quick shout out to fakenamegenerator.com for helping me out with a lot of these fictional drivers, although there were plenty that I did name myself, and including a couple that Alex and Rose Jam had contributed in terms of names, those kinds of things.
That is true. Yeah, definitely great to check out. Definitely strongly encourage that for sure. So, other things going on. Penalties coming and going with colleagues' outcome, and now RCR getting hit with penalties, and all sorts of crazy things going on there. With the penalties that have been taking place so far this season, it's been a common trend that so far it's all been Chevy teams. Hendrick's been hit a couple of occasions. Of course, Hendrick did get the appeal. We had colleagues' outcome, and now RCR with Austin Dillon getting hit with penalties. Even though, it's one of those things you just can't help but ask: is this possibly a Chevy problem if this is happening across different Chevy teams?
I mean, you kind of have to almost think it does. And just the fact that there's been so many penalties and they've all been with Chevrolet teams, you definitely kind of have to think, okay, is there something going on here with the Chevy manufacturing, or what's going on in the teams? Is Chevrolet telling them to do something? I obviously don't know, but you do kind of have to wonder if there is something going on there.
Right. In case you missed it, the 3 team, Austin Dillon, they were fined $75,000, penalized 60 points for a rules infraction. They violated the assembled vehicles rules in the car's underwing assembly and hardware. Crew chief Keith Roden was fined $75K, suspended for the next 2 races. Austin Dillon was penalized 60 points and 5 playoff points, dropping him from 21st to 28th in the standings. Richard Childress did tweet that they were disappointed in the penalty that NASCAR issues. They do plan on appealing. So, yeah, I mean, this was an L1 level infraction, because once again, we brought up before, this is where, especially now with the next gen car, NASCAR has basically said, F around and find out. That's basically what they said, and they've really, no pun intended with the name of this podcast, they dropped the hammer on some of these, because last year we saw that with Brad Keselowski, we saw that with Michael McDowell, and this year we're seeing it twice with Hendrick. We saw it with Colleague. We saw it with RCR. You just can't help. But it's, at some point, what's the border? What's the boundary? Where's that line drawn at some point with all these penalties suddenly kicking in?
I mean, you got to assume that line is probably getting close to being drawn because, I mean, there's so many penalties this year within one camp. And so it's like,
yeah,
you have to wonder, when are they going to start really bringing in the harsher penalties? Like, say, if this happens again, you lose your playoff eligibility.
right.
I mean, because that is in the rule book that it can happen.
Yeah.
So you have to wonder, when are they going to officially go to that extreme to enforce the rules?
And I'm sure if or when that happens, it's there's going to be a lot of debates. There's going to be a lot of discussions for sure. And it's certainly possible at this point from what we're seeing. Who knows what will happen next? Anyhow.
Yeah, Jed, what's your take on this?
Oh, I don't have a ton to say on this. The only thing that I can really say is just, see where the chips fall where they may. I will say I don't necessarily think this is a Chevy specific issue just because this is so different from the louver penalty.
Mm.
If you want to talk about Chevy telling the teams to push it a little bit more, I suppose that's a possibility, but I don't think this is something where Chevy is explicitly like trying to find the exploit on behalf of the whole program necessarily, especially since in the case of the louvers it seemed to have been more of a single source issue than a Chevy issue, even if it was a complicated situation to resolve.
Yeah, and that makes sense, honestly. Again, it's just one of those things where you can't help but wonder, but it's probably not the case.
Yeah.
On to some more intriguing news. So it was reported earlier this week that, and I kind of wanted to bring this up because once again, there's those people that are yelling, "Oh, NASCAR is dying!" NASCAR is committing to reaching net zero carbon emissions by 2035, and that by 2028, NASCAR is going to introduce a new sustainable fuel, build EV charging ports at venues, as well as put in some renewable electricity. Which, hey, it's got to be done. Okay, you got to think about at some point, and this isn't going to be for until there's a full transition, probably in like 20 years or so. But, at some point you got to wonder, when is NASCAR going to have to look at alternate sources or electricity in their cars? We're seeing it now already with Formula E. So, people got to understand, you can sit there and say, well, I think I may stop watching NASCAR. Look, some of y'all have been saying that since the Chase came out in 2004. The fact is, change happens. It constantly happens, and, NASCAR has to do it. Every motorsport has to at some point. Yeah, so I think it's great. I've always wondered over time, I wonder how NASCAR is going to handle that when the time comes. And they're taking the necessary steps. They're taking the necessary steps. So, I mean, hey, it's got to be done, especially, being able to upkeep the venues with especially the rise of electric cars, more people buying electric cars, and stuff like that. So just something interesting I wanted to bring up since Adam Stern did report that earlier this week.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how NASCAR does this transition because we know they're going to have to.
Yeah.
It's just the way the future is going. I mean, there's no stopping it. And, I'm all in favor of finding, a more, renewable source of fuel, even if it's electricity or finding another source for fuel. Either way, I think it's a great idea. It's just going to help everyone out in the long term, and I am looking forward to seeing how NASCAR goes this path.
Sure.
Yeah, I know next to nothing about the science of it all, so all I could really just say is that I'm very thankful that we're doing more to protect the environment. I know that started with NASCAR Green and now it's evolving into NASCAR Impact. I just think it's good that we're thinking about this, both in the sense of even beyond the renewable fuel and possibly going to electric cars a couple decades down the line, just the work they're doing with things like solar panels and just in general trying to clean things up, because there's a lot more subtle ways to help the environment than a lot of people tend to give credit for. And if you want to jump ahead a little bit and talk a little bit more about the electrics, about the possibility of just electric racing, we can consider how that will affect the competition itself, since Formula E is a lot different, taking advantage of the electric cars. If we're talking 2 decades in the future, I'm pretty sure by that point we'll find a way to run a race relatively the same if they made a complete electric transition, or maybe they could completely change the format. Like, going back to my previous topic, in my electric series that I have in my universe, basically the way it works is that the way it works is it's the idea of an electric series happening today, and the way I did it is that they're twin races where it's a doubleheader similar to what Formula E has, except it's on the same day, and they're back-to-back races that are both roughly between 100 to 200 miles, depending on the track and venue and stuff. So that's what it would look like today. Not to bring things too much back to my situation, but yeah, I just getting back on topic. Yeah, I'm just glad that we're getting more sustainable in general. That's always a good thing, even if it's a big investment. And on what you decide if this is good or bad, but it seems like we're going to be keeping the gas-powered engines for at least the next 2 decades. So
yeah.
I
mean, and plus, of course, this was kind of reported last year. It hasn't happened yet, but there has been discussions about like an exhibition electric series potentially in the near future for NASCAR. They've been exploring that, so we could get a first taste of that relatively soon. So I'm looking forward to that.
And NASCAR, you're totally free to steal my doubleheader short races idea. Totally fine with it.
Hey, fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah, again, I'm excited to see how that works out. I'm excited to see how that nets out. And, of course, recent races. Michael and I took the trip down to Bristol for the dirt race. That was a lot of fun. It was cool to see NASCAR Race Day come back. We got to hang out at the Tweet Up, where Bob Pockrass's Tweet Up, where, by the way, you will see glimpses of that in my recent video, the newest Gray Speed at the Track. I had Bob Pockrass and Chris Rice of Colleague Racing appear in the video, as well as Dalton Hopkins front stretch. Got to run with some other people as well as Seth Eggert and a few other people. Had a lot of fun. Chris Rice even handed out free packs of Tide Pods. Because obviously Tide was sponsoring Justin Haley. Gain was sponsoring Allmendinger. So that was cool. That's one way to make your sponsors happy. So. Yeah, and as a reminder, do not eat them. So anyway,
we were talking about fast food earlier, so good to bring that back.
Yeah, sure. Fast food may not be good for you, but don't eat Tide Pods. That's common sense. But no, Bristol was a lot of fun. Michael, thoughts on Bristol, if you want.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. It was great getting to meet everybody. That was honestly one of the most fun times I've had at a cup race in years. It was so exciting to just get back to Bristol, where I've always loved going to races at. It's been a couple of years since I've been to one, so that was really fun. And just getting to take in NASCAR on dirt is something else entirely. Because this is a race I've been wanting to go to the past couple of years and just hadn't gotten the chance to. And so finally getting that opportunity was great. And I definitely was not disappointed by the action on track, even if some, certain section of Twitter was. But yeah, it was just an overall great time all around.
Yeah, it was fun. The weather held up, which was great for once, which was nice. I had a good time, and it's funny because for me, I feel bad that I really wish I would have gone to a Bristol more over the years, because I went in 2005 as a kid to the night race, the Sharpie 500, and here's the ironic part. Matt Kenseth sponsored a DeWalt car, won that race. 2023 Bristol Dirt Race, the winner, Christopher Bell, was driving a DeWalt car. Just kind of funny. And of course, I went there a couple times in between. Me and Michael went there in 2020 for the All-Star race when they welcomed fans back. And 2021, it was not the dirt race, but they had some sprint car and modified races there, which was a lot of fun to watch. I remember because there were supposed to be events that Saturday. Kyle Larson was supposed to race in it, but because of the rain, they had to push everything to Sunday, and Larson, of course, couldn't do it. He had to race at Talladega, which, if I remember correctly, I think he either crashed out or had an engine issue really early in that race. So it was just like, Man, that's rough, because I remember, I think Stuart Friesen won. I'm trying to remember which race it was, but he won one of the races.
It was the Big Block Modifieds.
Thank you. That's what it was. So, yeah, I was just happy to be back at Bristol, and I definitely would like to go back. I'd love to go back for both races for the fall weekend, see if we can make that work for sure.
Yeah, we got to see Junior race.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Growing up as a Junior fan, it would be great to see him race. As for me, I can say that in terms of NASCAR, as of right now, I can confirm that Gateway I will be at. Me and my dad are going to be there again. I got a lot of family in St. Louis, and obviously I've been pretty hyped about that track being on the Cup Series schedule. It's a great venue. St. Louis is a great sports city. Not being biased, seriously. The fans there always are right whenever it's a Cardinals, Blues, or St. Louis City SC game, or heck, even when the Rams were there. But anyway, I am going to try and get to the Indy 500 because obviously, as I mentioned at the start of this podcast, month of May is right around the corner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Moved here at the perfect time.
You honestly did. like, hey, I'm here. Oh yeah, the Indy 500 is like in a month because, and obviously you mentioned you were at the track today because they had open practice. They had the open test, I believe it was.
Yep.
Michael, are you close enough to let people pay to park on your lawn?
No. I still live about 30 minutes away, and I don't even live in a house. I live in an apartment, so that's not really my call.
Yeah.
Hey, you could, if they try hard enough, they can park there.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, like 300,000 people come to the event, and 100,000.
Maybe I'll shuttle people.
Yeah.
How about that?
Oh yeah, like I'm not gonna lie. If I ever have a house in Indy and I'm close enough to the track, I would love to have people park there, and not only that, just have like a fun get together. Grill some food and have a cornhole set, play some music. Have a good time because it's Indy 500. It's a spectacle, and plus, if I go to the Indy 500, that means
Whoa.
Sorry.
Yeah, dude, you sounded like Darth Vader there.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, I guess that's a sign of my computer going, stop! Anyway. Okay, well, I'm definitely going to have to, put an edit there going, turns into Darth Vader for a moment. I'll have to go back and look at that. But, no, I was going to say, Indy is, I thought, when I mentioned Greatest Spectacle, I thought you were going to say, what about Daytona? Because I was going to say, hey, this would be fun year if I end up going to both the Daytona 500 and the Indy 500 in 1 year. That would be...
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Yeah. I'm glad, when you, me, and John went in 2021, oh my God, that was fun. Because that, I had been before in 2015, but for you guys, that was your first. And,
yeah.
Yeah, just seeing Elio win it was a sight to behold. You had to be there, honestly. It was... And, even so, they didn't have the infield stuff yet because we were still coming back from the oh no virus. We still had 150,000 people there. I mean, the grandstands were packed, but it was just a blast. And hopefully there'll be some fun memories again this year for sure.
Absolutely.
Yep. So, and of course, Martinsville... Kyle Larson ended up winning that race. I will say, I think, just real quick on that race, I thought this year's spring race was better than last year's. Last year's, I think, got heavily affected with weather. And, of course, they did alter the short track package. I thought, there was, quite a lot of passing. I mean, I know, hate to bring this up, I know Denny Hamlin kind of argued, well, you don't really pass. Not going to lie. Joey Logano started I don't remember where, but way in the back, and he finished second. So there was a lot of movement throughout the field, and I thought Martinsville did just fine. That's just my opinion, though, obviously, but I thought Martinsville did just fine.
Oh yeah, I think it was a good race too. For as much as we got to see, I mean, it was enough to keep you captivated throughout the whole race, and that's something I feel like it kind of lacked last year with this new car. So it seems like the short track package is going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's still issues with passing, and a lot of it came down to strategy or other drivers making mistakes or cautions falling at moments. So there's definitely still work to be done, but it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, I didn't actually see much of the race this weekend because I was working something on Sunday, so I only was able to see the last 50 laps or so. But from what I could tell by following, even though it wasn't that crazy of a race, it seemed like it's definitely it seems like it definitely is getting better, and I think the weather did have a lot to do with that, so we can be thankful for that. I feel like they're probably going to need to make some more adjustments, but I can't be that mad about it. Funny enough, I was actually thinking, though, I honestly, even though I didn't watch much of the race, I was kind of thinking that it was good that we had a race where that wasn't that much to talk about just after how crazy the last few races have been off the track. And then in comes another penalty 2 days later.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
I can't help but sit there and be like, oh boy, what's next?
You can cut that part out if you want, but I just thought that was kind of funny.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
So with that, we got a fun weekend coming up. It's Talladega weekend. That's right.
Oh, shit.
Here we go. Time for insanity. Will we get any surprise winners like Daytona with Ricky Stenhouse Jr.? Who are we liking for Talladega? Obviously, it is extremely, extremely hard to predict a race like this. But still, anything can and will happen when it comes to Talladega.
It's Talladega. That's all you really have to say about it.
Hey.
Yep. Yeah. And by the way, Alex, just kind of going back into the whole paint schemes thing, looks like the 82 MU Tigers car will be back in ARCA.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because...
saw it on the entry list.
Wow, okay. Yeah, because they were entered for Daytona, and the Missouri Tigers were sponsoring. I saw the car in there. Obviously, it looked like it was being worked on a lot in the garage, and unfortunately, they had to withdraw because I had to tell my dad because he's a Mizzou grad, so I was like, hey, Dad, check this out. It's a Missouri Tigers car. And unfortunately, I had to tell him, unfortunately, they were unable to race. I'm assuming they probably had some issues, and they just weren't able to get on the track. So hopefully they will, and we'll get to see him out there. I think the guy's name was Kevin Campbell, a St. Louis native. So obviously, hopefully we'll get to see them on the track.
Yep, looking forward to it. So we got ARCA, Xfinity, and Cup at Talladega this weekend. Looking forward to watching them all. I'll actually be heading back home this weekend, so we'll be watching them with my family.
Awesome. That's always good to hear.
Yep, you're more than welcome over, too, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let you know.
Sounds good.
All right. Yeah, so... Oh, man, if I had to make picks, especially for the Cup race, I mean, you can't go wrong with the Fords, because the Fords always seem to be the strongest or have really well thought out strategies. I'm going to say this. The RFK Fords looked like they had the 500 in the bag until about the last 15 laps. So don't count out Brad. Don't count out Chris Buescher.
Yeah, especially not Brad, because you know how good he is at Talladega.
Oh, yeah. And it's been exactly 2 years now since his last win in 2021 at this exact race. So, and Brad nearly won Atlanta too. So, you know what? I'm going with Brad Keselowski. I'm going with Brad.
Yeah, just to go with someone different, I think I'm going to go with Bubba Wallace because we know how good he is on the super speedways.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, definitely. I definitely like Bubba's odds. Nick, what about you?
I really don't like making picks just because especially at Talladega. Of course, this is the first week I had to come on, but if I'm gonna pick, it's Talladega, so I might as well go a bit bold, but not too bold. I agree with Alex that the Fords are going to be who really to watch again, but I feel like the way it is with Talladega is you get well. with the plate races in general at Daytona and Talladega and now Atlanta, I feel like the best kind of approach to take with picking an underdog winner is someone who's an underdog, but I hate to say just enough of an underdog because you're never going to get a back marker. It's mostly going to be someone who hasn't been doing super well at the other tracks, but is still good enough equipment to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, I'm going to go a bit bold. If you're going to make me pick, I think Austin Cindric gets win number 2 this weekend.
Okay.
That's not a bad pick. That's a good pick.
I think he gets win number 2 at the other super speedway. I've got a feeling.
Yeah, I think Cindric's a good pick. Kind of surprising he hasn't won another race yet, but I think many more are going to be coming for him soon. So yeah, I think all of us made some pretty good picks here. So
I will say if I'm somehow right and Cindric does win, we got to be careful with the fact that summer is where most of the road courses are, because if he gets momentum, Cindric could bounce back hard.
Yeah, be a huge momentum boost. So we'll definitely look forward to that. Besides that, I think that'll do it for this edition of the podcast. So once again, Nick, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute joy talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm sure links will be in the description. You can find me on Instagram at Jets Racing Designs and on Twitter at Jets Racing Design because because Twitter handles have to be shorter than Instagram, and I could not find a better way to shorten my name. So, but again, thank you both for having me. I enjoyed coming on, and hopefully if I have a bigger opportunity on something else to say within the sport, or if I have some big update I'm doing with Alex, I'd love to come on again at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem.
Welcome anytime.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts, Michael?
No, I think we're good to go.
Alrighty. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. If you enjoyed these podcasts, feel free to subscribe to Gray Speed Productions for more future content as well. With that being said, we will see you next time.